The story begins with a moment so tense it almost defies belief. A woman stands facing the officers of the SS, the most feared and disciplined unit of Nazi Germany. Their guns trained on her as if the outcome is already certain. To anyone else, this would be a moment of complete helplessness. A place where fear and instinct would demand surrender. But she reacts differently. She doesn't freeze, she doesn't plead, and she doesn't flinch. Instead, she holds herself steady, her expression calm, almost serene, with a subtle smile that seems to defy the danger pressed against her. It's not arrogance. It's calculation. She knows the most dangerous power the SS possesses is their expectation of fear. And by refusing to provide it, she destabilizes them in an instant. The SS officer sees a woman before him who should be terrified, whose life hangs by a thread. He expects hesitation, trembling, desperation. Instead, she projects composure. Her calmness is alien to him. A signal that the usual scripts of dominance and submission don't apply here. The very system built to terrorize has not accounted for someone who can meet intimidation with quiet confidence. In that split second, the dynamics shift. What should have been a straightforward exercise of control becomes uncertainty. Because the officer no longer knows what to anticipate. And in warfare, even a fraction of hesitation can be deadly. Her smile does more than unsettle him. It buys her time. Every second that passes without the trigger being pulled is a second to observe, to assess, to memorize patterns. She notices how the officers stand, how they assume authority without verification, how they move with an overconfidence born from years of unquestioned obedience. She takes mental notes, turning their over-reliance on fear into a strategic advantage. To the SS, the moment seems static, predictable, routine. To her, it's a live map of opportunities, gaps, and weaknesses that no one else sees because no one else is thinking beyond the fear. This moment is also a study in psychology. The SS relied on their victims' terror to maintain control, but control is never absolute. It exists only so long as it is assumed and respected. By denying them the reaction they expect, she introduces uncertainty. A single unpredictable variable in a system designed for compliance. That uncertainty spreads subtly, like a shadow across their ranks. And it begins to undermine their confidence even before the first act of resistance takes place. What makes this scene extraordinary is not the threat itself, but her mindset. She understands that being calm in the face of danger is not just bravery. It is strategy. While the SS officer believes the gun grants him power, she knows that true power lies in composure, in observation, and in the patience to act at the right moment. The gun pressed against her head is temporary. The advantage she gains from his hesitation is permanent. In that instant, she transforms from a perceived victim into a presence he cannot control, setting the stage for the unimaginable chain of events that will follow. Her defiance begins quietly, almost imperceptibly, with a steady gaze, a subtle smile, and the unwavering refusal to succumb to fear. But in that quiet defiance, the rules of power are rewritten. The officers who believed themselves untouchable are no longer certain of anything. And that uncertainty becomes the first crack in the foundation of their control. A crack that will widen as the night unfolds. Once the initial confrontation has passed, the real work begins. The SS officers, still reeling from the unexpected calm and subtle defiance of the woman before them, return to their routines, assuming the immediate danger has passed. They do not notice the shift in the air, the small but deliberate movements that signal a mind working far faster than theirs. They rely on the familiar, timed patrols, predictable habits, and the unquestioned authority of rank. It is precisely these routines that become their vulnerability. Because she observes, remembers, and calculates while appearing harmless. To them, she is invisible. To her, they are an open book. The SS thrived on fear, intimidation, and the assumption that civilians would react predictably. They had built a system where control came from obedience. And anyone who deviated from expectation could be punished or executed. But she does not deviate recklessly. Instead, she studies. She notices who lingers too long in one spot, who relies on others for coverage, who moves confidently without checking surroundings. Each subtle pattern becomes a map. And the more confident the officers become, the more exposed they are to someone who sees every flaw. She learns the guard's habits with precision. The way one officer relaxes after issuing orders. The way another glances repeatedly down a hallway. The subtle pauses that betray a sense of overconfidence. These details, invisible to those trained to see only overt resistance, are the key to dismantling a system designed to terrify. By appearing compliant and unthreatening, she disarms their assumptions and lowers their guard, convincing them that they are still in control. But in reality, she is building the framework for their destruction. The beauty of her strategy lies in patience. She does not strike immediately, because the SS's confidence is the most powerful weapon she can use against them. Each routine they follow, each shift change performed without suspicion, is an opportunity to prepare. Every interaction, no matter how small, provides information about who can be surprised, who reacts too quickly, and who relies entirely on authority to act. These are the cracks in their armor that she intends to exploit. By letting them settle into complacency, she turns their own discipline and confidence into a liability. The SS officers, accustomed to obedience, cannot imagine that someone could be watching so carefully, learning so methodically, without giving away a hint of intent. They are trained to look for overt threats, loud resistance, or chaos. But her method is quiet, invisible, deliberate. She manipulates the very system meant to control her, using their confidence and predictability as tools in her hands. By the time she moves into action, she is not improvising. She is acting with the clarity of someone who has studied every detail, waited for the perfect moment, and allowed the enemy to unknowingly set the stage for their own downfall. What the SS believed was control is revealed to be illusion. Their strength, based on fear and routine, has become the instrument of their defeat. In this careful, calculated observation, she demonstrates that the most effective strategy is not raw force, but understanding the enemy better than they understand themselves. And that understanding will ensure that when the night comes, the chaos is complete, and the enemy's confidence collapses in a way they never imagined. When the night arrives, everything that was carefully observed and planned begins to unfold with terrifying precision. The chaos starts almost imperceptibly. An officer who is supposed to be at his post is nowhere to be seen. A patrol route goes unmonitored, a guard assumes someone else is watching and fails to act. At first, these small mistakes seem insignificant, just the kind of minor lapses that happen in any routine. But because she has studied them so meticulously, she recognizes exactly where to strike first, where disruption will spread fastest, and how to turn each tiny error into a cascade of confusion. The SS, trained to respond to overt resistance, cannot comprehend a threat that is silent, calculated, and everywhere at once. Her attacks are deliberate, never rushed. Each movement is designed to exploit the patterns she has memorized over the days and weeks of watching. Darkness becomes her ally, hiding not only her movements but the enemy's own errors from one another. She targets the weak points first, the officers and soldiers who rely most heavily on others to cover their blind spots. As one guard is eliminated or incapacitated, another discovers the absence too late, triggering panic. Communication breaks down. Orders are shouted into the dark and go unanswered. And the disciplined structure that once made the SS so formidable crumbles under the weight of uncertainty. The fear that has been her ally now becomes contagious. It spreads through the ranks in subtle ways at first. A hesitation here, a glance over the shoulder there, the quick intake of breath when a shadow moves in the corner of a room. Each sign of unease amplifies the next, creating a chain reaction that cannot be stopped because the SS are not trained to fight uncertainty, only predictable threats. By the time the scope of what is happening becomes clear to them, the structure of control that gave them confidence is gone, replaced with confusion, panic, and disbelief. What she accomplishes is both physical and psychological. Every strike weakens not just bodies but morale, demonstrating that the supposed invincibility of the SS was an illusion. Soldiers trained to dominate through fear are now dominated by it, unable to act decisively because they cannot predict the actions of the one person they assumed was powerless. The night stretches on, each moment building on the last, until the full scale of the carnage is realized.